Hey everyone and welcome, I'm your friend Art of Mana, and today let's talk about Tiger Electronics LCD games. Now this is the first one that I ever owned, and it is of course based off of the movie Hook. It takes two AA batteries to play, and it approximates the graphics by using this background image and then a matrix of smaller images that turn on or off much like a calculator. With this you get your gameplay. I remember distinctly throwing eggs at Captain Hook in this one. These became quite the fad, and I had these long before I ever had a Game Boy or anything like that. Many friends would collect these, and I remember every time I'd see a new one, always getting kind of excited. They were simple experiences, but a lot of fun, and over time, the collection grew. Then I also included things like this, which, interestingly enough, is really just a shell for the games themselves, which come on these cartridges and have the screens, the matrix, and all of the guts, so to speak. Later on, I also found this when Ms. Mana and I were going through some of her old things. We decided to keep it. It's kind of fun. I remember having a Wheel of Fortune game like this as well. And then Ms. Mana's brother actually gave me this, which is a modern take on the LCD craze, and I'll say not very good. It approximates Tetris, but it also has other games that are all using that same Tetris grid, and it's kind of funky, a little strange, but it looks cool. And you can see on the back all of the guts of the unit. Unfortunately, well, there was a time when I thought that maybe video gaming wasn't something I'd be really into for much longer, and I sold a lot of my games and my LCD Tiger Electronics ones in particular. I had maybe at one point a half dozen to 9 of them, and now I only have these 3, with of course keeping this one because it was my original. I remember specifically the X-Men game, and I really wanted to get that one when I remembered it, but going to eBay I found that these were selling for 40, 50, 60 bucks and more. And I thought to myself, that's just a little too dear for me right now, especially for something I probably wouldn't be playing a whole lot, but would like to experience on stream or in a video with you. Well, thankfully, Tiger has reissued this line of units, and they have 4 of them out right now, including this Sonic the Hedgehog game. They also have Transformers, X-Men, the one that I really wish I hadn't sold, and the Little Mermaid, one that Ms. Mana actually wishes she hadn't gotten rid of. So, today we're going to take a look at this, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the only one I could get my hands on for pre-order, but these retail for $15, and I was able to get this through Amazon. I'll be trying to procure the other ones and share them in a future video. The packaging is really interesting. It's a lot less complicated than these originally were sold in. Those clamshell cases were actually my first experience with clamshell design, and I hate them because of trying to get into these systems. This is much better with a blister pack, and I like that it says from the vault, a really clever little thing. I'd actually like to see Tiger Electronics and Hasbro, who now has the license, re-release the entire lineup if they could. But I'm pretty sure that licensing is going to be the thing that prevents them. That being said, let's go ahead and dive in. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that it feels very much like the original games. This one has a little bit of a scuff on the screen, and that's disappointing, but considering that all of these units are pretty cheaply made, I'm not too surprised. And this did get packaged in the mail from Amazon. I hope that these are sold in stores. It looks like they have now included this screw that you have to access the battery compartment through. But otherwise, let's just compare it to another here. So this is the original, and this is the back. You can tell that the writing is a little bit different. This has all of the now required recycling information and whatnot. And it also says it's copyright 2020 by Hasbro, whereas of course this says 1988 by Tiger Electronics. Well, I guess I need a screwdriver, which I didn't plan on, and I'll grab some batteries while I'm at it, and we'll give this a go. Get some batteries, 2 AA's. So, interestingly enough, again, this uses a screw, which the original did not have. That's okay. I guess that prevents it from coming out while you're playing in some particularly vigorous sessions. And is it going to be one that comes out completely? No, you just have to get it out enough, and there you go. That's what the inside looks like. That's pretty doable. Let's pop those batteries in. Now this is interesting too. They've actually separated the battery compartment where that was not something done originally. There we go. Batteries are in. Let's close this up. And I'll tell you what I think. Is it worth your time and money? Or should you try and track down an original? Let's find out. Let's turn on. So, on and start. Okay, here we go. So, I guess we've got tails and spin, which is like a jump attack. We can pick things up maybe? I'm not really sure. We can jump with up. And to be perfectly honest, well, this is kind of the way that this particular genre of game goes. I have no idea yet what I'm doing, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. And I do love this Sonic 3 Special Zone background. That's pretty cool. The graphics on these always were pretty impressive because, again, it's actually hand-drawn images. It has no pixels or anything like that. I'm gonna just talk a little bit about the feel of this. I gotta tell you, I'm pretty impressed. It feels a lot like the original, and I was even starting to doubt myself, thinking that maybe there was a little too much flex on the top of this. But when I went back to my hook, I realized there's that flex as well. This is just a protective cover over everything else that's going on in the actual LCD display down below. In terms of buttons, well, they feel a little bit looser than the original and a little bit higher up. Maybe they have a different kind of membrane below them. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm not even gonna say that that's a negative, as I remember kind of rubbing my fingers raw with these original units. Again, I don't have the original of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 to compare this to. That being said, I'm gonna say based off of my hook unit, this is really, really darn close. I'm impressed. Definitely a little bit of a difference in the mold, as we already saw on the back, but in terms of the front and the design, it looks spot on. One thing I also noticed, and I don't know if this is true of just Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in general, again, not having had the original game, this side looks a little bit fuzzy, almost like it was a scan of an older image. And I'm wondering if maybe that's how they reacquired the artwork for these units. It'll be interesting once I get the X-Men one to compare. You can kind of tell if I look at some of these other ones, like for example, this Batman one, that's really crisp, clean artwork. In Jurassic Park, same thing. But Sonic looks really clear, and I'm guessing that's probably because they have that original asset in a higher quality scan. That being said, you'd be hard-pressed to really notice that in a standard play environment. The sticker on the front seems a little bit off-center, just a little high. So the quality of this is definitely going to be less than maybe these originals. But when these came out, they were really trying to promote this as the latest tech. This is really just a throwback device, and all things said and done, I'm going to tell you that I say it does a very adequate job of doing just that. For $15, I think that getting these is well worth your money, especially if you want to see a little glimpse into the late 80s, early 90s handheld video game arena. If you have nostalgia for these, it's a no-brainer. If you used to play Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and you'd like to relive a little bit of your childhood, for $15, check it out. By the way, I'd love to get some of these other units, especially the X-Men one, as that's one that I sold and I grew up with. If you'd like to see me get more of these and do more reviews of these, maybe a little more in depth, please let me know. If you'd like me to try and track down the original units to really compare them, I might be willing to do that as well for the sake of video and maybe a little nostalgia. That's it for me for today. As always, do good, be well, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.